Shock Monkey Radio is entertainment for adults, by adults, and the views and opinions expressed here do not reflect upon the sponsors or FXBG Public Radio. For additional information, please refer to the United States Bill of Rights. Stand warned. And opinions. All right, we're live. Sorry about last week. Very sorry. I was hungover. It's no excuse. And those of you who think that maybe you're sitting there, you're waiting for the notification that never came. Shock Monkey Radio didn't go live. And those of you who were waiting and were disappointed, you have every right to think maybe the Madman doesn't respect us as viewers, you know. Because that's what happens, you know. If you don't show up for work, you know, things, you know, fall through the cracks. That's all there is to it, you know. And being as old as I am, you know, I should know better than to be that hungover at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. All my fault. It's not that I don't respect you. I love you. All right? It's just sometimes I'm selfish and irresponsible. Forgive me. But, you know, I mean, I was at the point, because there's no videos to clip or anything like that last week. I mean, I almost got bored. And so it's kind of like why I have to do this show, you know. Otherwise, I'll get bored and crazy. Anyway, no excuse. No excuse. Welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. I am the Madman, your host. I want to remind you again that I have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron today. I would appreciate it. Hashtag Shock Monkey Radio, all one word, if you want to send me money through Cash App. And you can follow me on social media over there. And if you were following like the Instagram or the Twitter last week, that's where I put out. I was hungover. Sorry. My bad. Anyway, but I mean, let's get it straight. I'm not giving up beer. Never. There's a lesson I'm missing in there somewhere. Like, I don't know. You shouldn't like make yourself incapacitate yourself when your friends and family need you. I don't know. I'm not getting that lesson. Anyway. I got a bunch of stuff to talk about, and the reason I couldn't do the show, I mean, I was here, but, I mean, I needed the energy to say the things I'm going to say here today, because you'll see, I'll get animated here in the next segment, after this one. I realized this week that we are crazy good at making characters. Would you agree, EK?
Yeah.
We are crazy good at making characters. Like, I'm working right now on a Shock Monkey. It's a player character for the role-playing game, and he's a mutant, white-faced Saki monkey. He's like 175 pounds. He's big, you know, and he's got these electrical gauntlets that he beats people with. And that's going to be a character I'll play. And that's fun. That's a fun concept based upon this show. Awesome, huh? Knock the mic there. To give you an even better example, I could tell you about the Kool-Aid Man. Kool-Aid Man's a villain, if you didn't know. Back in 1954, a lot of the post-war era corporations, they all really wanted to create like mutants to help like promote their brands. And so the Kraft Heinz Corporation, they said, we want to make a sentient pitcher of Kool-Aid. And so I think it was 1954, they, through like chemical and radiation experimentation, created this sentient pitcher of Kool-Aid. And it was just a pitcher, a glass pitcher of Kool-Aid. And really, it was just a pitcher. All right, the Kool-Aid didn't come in it. You had to pour the Kool-Aid into the pitcher. So it could have been an anything pitcher, but they decided to use it as a spokesperson for the Kool-Aid brand. And in the 50s and so forth, and that's when it really started. And then I think it was in 1974, they said, we want to change what happens, because they had all sorts of problems with the pitcher. Like, for example, somebody broke it once, and it like screamed in absolute agony, and like, ah! It wasn't pleasant. And then they, it eventually reformed. So now this thing doesn't even know if it can even die. All right, it's made of glass, it's an empty container, and it doesn't even know it can die. And then like 1974, they said, we want to make it invulnerable because it was just too heartbreaking to hear that thing every time it broke, hear it scream. So they went through another series of chemical and radiation experimentation in which he grew to like a 6 foot tall pitcher of that you could put anything in, particularly Kool-Aid. All right, 6 foot tall, and he's got arms and legs now. All right, and now he's invulnerable. And so they hired him to start doing commercials because they wanted to bust through a wall and go, oh yeah, with a bunch of Kool-Aid in them. But, things got crazy. He started realizing maybe I can't die. He started getting cynical. He's like, I can't sleep because my eyelids are made of glass. I still have human desires. I don't eat anymore. I can't make love to a woman anymore. He started getting a little crazy. And I think it was like 1977, maybe 79. I can't remember. That's when they switched, where he quit. They had a bunch of crazy differences, and he went a little crazy. The Kool-Aid Man went a little crazy, and that's when they switched to the animation and the advertising. So they kept on going with the brand. But after that, from I think it was 79 afterwards, is when the advertising brand was all animated. But the guy's still out there, still a big picture. He could put anything in it. And he's a villain now. I mean, he's mad at the world, and he's like an unstoppable juggernaut. He could fill himself with Kool-Aid and sit in a freezer overnight and make himself like even more solid and dense and have more mass and like barrel into a building. He could fill himself with kerosene, light himself on fire, and run through a tenement building. The whole time going, oh yeah, with a big goofy grin on his face as he wreaks havoc across the city. He could put dry ice in him. He could put all sorts of different chemicals in him. He could become like a nerve agents in him. Terrifying villain. So watch out for that Kool-Aid Man. He's very dangerous. And that's my point. We are very good at making characters. Because it makes sense. A lot of those corporations in the 50s, like the post-war era, yeah, they had McDonald's had the wizard. The clown, who is a wizard. But they also had success with the Fry Guys, and then that's when Kraft Heinz said, "Hey, we should try to make a Kool-Aid pitcher guy." A lot of companies were doing that back in the day. Anyway, we are really good at creating characters. All right, let's talk about the Sex Pistols for a little bit. So Gavin McInnes has been doing this Battle of the Bands thing for a few months now, and it's like going over these bands, and it's deep dives into the hits of a band and stuff like that. I enjoy watching it, but I really don't like his rating system because he has absolutely horrible taste in music. And I watched this 2-hour gush fest that he did the other day on the Sex Pistols, and it infuriated me because they are the highest rated band. It's like every song on Nevermind the Bollocks is a jam, and it's like, dude, the Sex Pistols are objectively terrible. Okay, they are objectively musically terrible, and I'm not surprised that you like them because your band is Anal Chinook, and you're terrible. All right, and I don't even want to mention your other band name because it's stupid and weird and Canadian and gay. All right? You have horrible taste in music. And that's funny coming from somebody who takes a lot of pride in how he dresses, Especially when you have objectively horrible taste in music. All right, look, the Sex Pistols were definitely culturally relevant. I understand that a lot of the underground blue-collar culture back in the late 70s were very much sick and tired of the ABBA, the Carpenters, that kind of, all those musicians that were dressed like Dazzler from the X-Men. Dazzler from the X-Men? She's awesome. Anyway. But they all dress like that. They're all roller skates and the feathered hair, and it's big feathered hair. And the Sex Pistols were a reaction to that. I understand, and that makes them culturally relevant. But that Malcolm McLaren guy, he owned the shop called Sex there in England or whatever. And he said, "Oh, I'm going to be fashionable with a band. I'm going to make a band that's solely about fashion." And that's all the Sex Pistols were. They were solely about fashion, and that does not mean they're a good band. All right? People wanted to know what David Bowie was wearing because David Bowie was a good musician, not an excellent musician, but a really good musician. All right? And so when all the papers want to know whose shirt you wear, then it makes sense that people want to know what David Bowie is wearing. All right, You become fashionable because you are in fashion because of a talent you actually have. But when you're just banging on instruments and screaming off key into a microphone, that's not music. It's fashion, but it's not music, and it shouldn't rate as highly as it does. All right, Sex Pistols are objectively terrible. And I'm starting to think you're not even going to get to a band like Queen. All right? Because you're so obsessed with bands like the Sex Pistols and the Replacements, and you think they're good. You know, the Rolling Stones is way down on your list. That shows how objectively terrible your taste in music is. You know, usually I don't get this upset about like music and stuff like that, but I mean, it's like when grunge happened. You know, I hated grunge. I hated the grunge music. I hated Kurt Cobain, and I hated the culture that it spawned. All right, but the point is that Kurt Cobain at least had a modicum of talent. And that's why people started to emulate the way he looks and presents himself and stuff like that. And why heroin made a big resurgence. All right? And you know how hard it is for me to say that? For me to say that Kurt Cobain has more talent than the Sex Pistols? I don't even like admitting that. Because Kurt Cobain is terrible. And the best thing that happened to Kurt Cobain was Courtney Love. The best thing that happened to America was for Kurt Cobain to get killed by Courtney Love. All right? And, you know, it's a shame. You know, I feel terrible when people OD on drugs because it's happening every day in this country. I get it. But you know what? You get a bunch of blue-collar criminal junkies together to make a fashion band. What do you expect's going to happen? Cultural relevance does not mean you're a good musician. And I don't expect you to understand because you berate Ryan for being a better musician than you'll ever be. You berate Big John because he went to the Fame School and did a cappella groups. You could never do that. You wouldn't even know the difference between a tenor and a soprano or whatever. I don't know, alto, what's the other one? Bass. All right? I play drums and ukulele. All right, buddy? And I know more about music than you do. And when you think the Sex Pistols are good, you need to flush out your headgear. Because they are objectively terrible. See, I couldn't be hungover and do that rant. A lot of passion behind it. All right. Gavin McInnes, I love his show, but he's an idiot. And it's funny because, you know, everybody hates him for all the wrong reasons. You should hate him for the reasons I hate him, which is he is an idiot when it comes to taste in music. And he cares too much about fashion. Ooh, look how much I spent on my shoes and my jacket. Ew. That's what chicks do, dude. All right, let's go to the next topic. A couple weeks ago, I did the Madman Teaches Texas Hold'em. A lot of people seem to like that. So I'm going to teach another game today. And today, the Madman teaches Blackjack. All right, first of all, we got, I got to say, it's like never play Blackjack when it's a single deck. Because if it's a single deck, everyone's counting. All right? Never play Blackjack a single deck. When I'm talking about playing Blackjack, play Blackjack at a casino. Don't play Blackjack with your friends because it's silly. Play poker if you're doing that. I mean, it's just, Blackjack is not a game you play with friends. Blackjack is something you play in a casino. You go and you sit down at the table, and just like Texas Hold'em, Blackjack bores the hell out of me. Like, even more so than Texas Hold'em. Texas Hold'em, you can at least have a conversation. But Blackjack moves fast enough that, you know, you can't really get into a long conversation with people. And people will get mad at you for if you hit or don't hit. All right, especially when I start explaining my strategy and how I play. You'll sit down at a blackjack table and you'll be saying like I'm standing, and then the guy next to you, to the right of you, says hit me, and he busts, and then he'll get mad at you because you should have busted so I didn't have to. You know, get lost. Up your nose with a rubber hose like that. You play your cards, I'll play my cards. If you want, move to over here. If you don't want to get cards after me. And frequently, I'll sit at the last seat at the table, so that nobody's going after me, because they'll get angry at you for what you choose to do. All right. I'm going to talk briefly about counting cards. Don't do that. I know it's it's not necessarily illegal. It's frowned upon, especially if you're working with a team. You ever see that movie, that Kevin Spacey movie, 21? That's a good flick. These MIT nerds that go and count cards in a casino and live high on the hog. Sounds like fun. But I've counted cards. I can count cards, but it takes every single ounce of fun out of the game. So don't do that. Don't do that. If you're going to play a game, you gotta enjoy it in some way. And at that point, when you're counting cards, you're making playing a game of cards into a math test. And I hate math tests. I've always hated math tests, and I don't want to do anymore because I'm not in school anymore. All right. So don't do that. Don't count cards. And plus, casinos don't like it. The burden to bust. This is the biggest point when it comes to blackjack. The burden to bust is on the dealer. If you look at the table, this is generally how the rules go. Is that it says the dealer must draw to 17, stand. Draw up to 16 and stand on 17 and higher. So the burden to bust is on the dealer. All right. So you can win with a 4, with 2 2s in front of you. But if you're in that position, you probably just split them. I'll get to splitting and stuff like that. But the burden to bust is on them. So generally, I only hit up to 12. And even then on 12s, I'm like, I don't feel like I should hit this. Then I hit it and a king comes out or something like that. And freaking knew it. I don't like throwing my own money away by taking a card when I shouldn't have. All right. That makes me feel like I screwed up. All right. So I will stand frequently. It's like I'll get a 13 and stand. The next guy takes a hit and he busts and he gets mad at me. And I'm just like, that's just my rule. 13 and higher, I don't hit. Period. And unless it's soft, unless you got an ace and it's like a soft 13, then you want to hit. Only until it's hard, you know what I mean? You know what soft and hard hands mean, right? Blackjack? Okay, anyway. And the other trick is how you bet. And you need to know the table minimums and maximums, and the maximums, whenever you sit down, because that matters. Generally, what I do, say if it's a $5 minimum table, I'll go sit down on first hand $5 minimum. If I win, great. 5 again the next. If I lose that one, I double it. It goes to 10. If I win, then I go back to 5. All right? But if I lose the 10, then I double. And you keep doing that if you keep losing. But odds are you're going to hit eventually, and then you just go back down to the minimum bet again. See, a lot of gambling is not how you play. It's how you bet. All right? And blackjack is a perfect example of that. And if you do it my way, you'll see it's like, holy cow, I'm winning. I can grind it out at a blackjack table. It's not fun. It's not even remotely fun. So, double down. When it comes to doubling down, 10 and 11, maybe if the dealer's showing a weak hand, like he's got a 6-5 or something like that showing. Maybe. But if the dealer's showing a face card and I got an 11, I'll just hit. I won't double down. Because, it stinks. You got an 11 and you want to say double down and then you get dealt a 3. That really hurts. And so that's just, I'm very judicious and wary about doubling down. A lot of people double down all the time. On 10, 11, always double down. And I'm not like that. I guess I've seen swingers too many times. It's like, not in every case. Not in every case. Splits, generally, 6s you want to split, 8s you want to split. And I generally don't, like 10s, I don't split those. Like we get 2 jacks, 2 queens, something like that. I don't split those. But 6s, 8s, lower number cards if the dealer's showing weak, absolutely split them. Because especially if you follow the rules where it's like 13 and higher, you don't hit. And so then the burden to bust is always on the dealer. It's not on you. You do not have to draw to 17. All right? Some people would ask, I would explain this to people, and they'd say, what about if I had a soft 17? Should I hit on that? And I'd say maybe if the dealer's showing a face card. All right? But generally, a hitting on a 17 or higher soft is, you're probably not going to get a better hand. Odds are you're not going to get a better hand. I mean, odds are you're just going to get right back to where you were, 17. And then the next person on the table is getting mad at you. It's like, oh, I should have got that card. You took my queen, man. You took my queen, Ray. There's lots of them. There's lots and lots of them. Anyway, Madman taught you how to play blackjack. That's fun, huh? I'm going to skip this. I don't know. This one here. We'll go to the movie review. What do you think? I saw a really good movie. I'm going to want to tell you about it. It's called Synchronic. And no, it's not a new strain of marijuana. It's not a new Dr. Dre album. It's an excellent movie called Synchronic with Anthony Mackie, Falcon from the Avengers movies. And I was really shocked at how good this movie was. First of all, it's like there's really like no woke stuff in it at all. At all. I remember like after the movie was finished thinking, oh, that was really good. And I was like, was there any woke stuff in it? It's like, no, there wasn't. 2019 movie, Synchronic, with Anthony Mackie and Jamie Dornan. He's some sort of model, I guess. I don't know. It's like Casey Affleck and all those guys kind of blend together to me. Chris Pine, I don't know. All those guys kind of just blend together. But Anthony Mackie is kind of this, the main character, and it's really, really good story, because it has a lot of like realistic stuff going on, but it's also this fantastic sci-fi story that's going on. All right, so Anthony Mackie plays this what is it? An EMT. He plays an EMT, and he starts going on these calls, and these calls is like a lot of junkie overdoses and stuff like that, and they found this one guy that looks like he was stabbed with a sword. And they're like, what's going on here? And one time he was like searching for this guy for any like drugs he may still have on him. And he's like rooting through his pockets, and he gets jabbed with a needle, which is awful. If you're an EMT or a cop or something like that, and that happens to you, junky needle in my hand, you're really worried. So he goes to the doctor and stuff like that. And he goes to the doctor, and the doctor like takes his blood and stuff like that. The next day they call him back and says, well, you don't have AIDS or anything like that, but we want you to come in for a further screening. And he comes in for the further screening, and he gets like a CAT scan and stuff like that. And they find that he has this a tumor near his pineal gland in his brain. And your pineal gland is like, it calcifies as you get older, and his isn't. All right. And so we got to start lining you up for chemo and all that, and real human drama going on inside this sci-fi movie. All right. But at the same time, he's still an EMT, and he's going on these calls, and these people are like, weird things are happening to him that you don't normally see on like, as an EMT. And that starts coming together. It's like seeing the link between this drug people are taking called Synchronic. All right. Now, what Synchronic is a drug that's a DMT, like a DMT-like drug that not lets you perceive time all of time. It actually takes you to a time. It's a time-traveling drug, basically. And so his friend, played by Jamie Dornan, has a daughter who's 18 years old, and apparently she took the drug and she went missing. And some people have gone missing while taking this drug, which makes sense, And so he is like looking all over the city for this drug because he wants to get it off the streets. He can't believe people are taking it. People are disappearing. So he's going all over the city trying to find it. So he buys up all the drugs he can, all the Synchronic he can. And eventually he gets the idea to try it. And so he's sitting at home, nice safe environment, sitting at home, and he takes the drug and he waits for it to kick in. And so, it's a pill, so it takes a while for it to kick in. And then boom, all of a sudden he's in a swampland. This takes place in like Louisiana. He's in a swampland. There's alligators coming. He's like, oh, hell no. He's running through this swamp. And there's this guy with a conquistador with a sword come running at him. He's like screaming ghost at him in Spanish. And he barely escapes with his life back to his own time. And he's like, oh, this is weird. And so the second time he tries the drug, he's at a different spot in the house, and he goes to a different time. So he starts to realize it's like where you are when you take the drug takes you to a different time. Really crazy. Really kind of awesome. And so through like trial and error, he starts to realize, oh, I need to take this drug where my friend's daughter was when she took this drug. Because at the same time, his friend and his wife are like arguing with each other because their daughter's gone missing. You know, their marriage is falling apart. You know, plus the kid's missing. You know? And so Anthony Mackie takes the drug where the girl went missing and tries to find her. And that's like the plot of the movie. And it's really, really done well. Time travel movies, I don't know. I think they've been getting better lately. They realize that a lot of us have been picking apart Back to the Future for far too long. Picking apart Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure for far too long. You know, that doesn't make sense, man. That doesn't make sense. It's not how time travel works. And so they've been, you know, impressing me lately with some good time travel movies. Synchronic, 12 of 13 stars. I mean, really, really good sci-fi movie. I highly recommend it. It doesn't get 13 because, how do I put this? I like happy endings. Shit. Did I spoil it? Did I spoil it for you? Anyway. Sorry. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, let's get into the news worth knowing. Wet my whistle. All right. So, Missouri Attorney General requests records from Kansas City related to Harrison Butker doxing post. Now, I don't know if you've been following this story, but this is nuts. Okay? So, Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey is following through on his vow to pursue action against the city of Kansas City after a social media account run by the city revealed the residence of Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker in what Bailey says was an act of, quote, retaliation for his religious beliefs. Speaking to Outkick in the Morning with Charlie Arnold, Bailey said his office has requested records and documents related to the management of the city's social media account after a post on X last week that revealed the city where Butker lives. The post came amid a backlash Butker faced after he gave a commencement speech at a private Catholic school in Kansas where he spoke from a position as a Catholic. All right. Quote, we have demanded certain records from the city related to the management of the social media account that doxed Harrison Butker in retaliation for his free expression of religious beliefs, Bailey told Arnold in the episode aired on Thursday. When the episode. Okay. Let's paint this with a proper brush. That is the government retaliating against an individual for the expression of their sincerely held religious beliefs. That could be more of a clear act of violation of constitutional freedoms and the Missouri Human Rights Act. Butker, 28, has come under fire following his commencement speech at Benedictine College. In his address, he made specific references to female graduates embracing their, quote, vocation as a homemaker, and President Biden's stance on abortion as a Catholic. He also made references to the LGBT community as it relates to Pride Month. Quote, at the end of the day, I support his right to the free expression of religion. If you listen to what he said, he's actually drilled down the words he used. This is a man of Catholic faith speaking to a Catholic audience at a Catholic university expressing his sincerely held religious beliefs, Bailey continued. I'm always going to stand up and fight for the athletes and anyone who wants to express their religious beliefs and are protected by constitutional law to do so. Kansas City Mayor Quentin Lucas addressed the controversy after the post was deleted last week, calling it clearly inappropriate. Quote, a message appeared earlier this evening from a city public account. The message was clearly inappropriate for a public account. The city has correctly apologized for the error and will review account access and ensure nothing like this is shared in the future from the public channels. Bailey expressed concern that the review from the mayor's office could be an attempt to close the record on the attorney general's office. Close the records to the attorney general's office. We're not going to be stonewalled by our city to demand for accountability in this instance. All right. Yeah, and they're asking for information, you know, who, what, when, where, and all that stuff. Okay. So this is the thing about Harrison Butker. I really liked his commencement speech. I liked the things he said in it. I think that a lot of people, especially women, don't want to acknowledge the fact that there is nothing more important that you can do in life than to get married and have children. All right? I wish I could do it. I would give up all of this for that. Probably not likely to happen, but I mean, I've wanted to do that for a long time, since I was a young kid. Unfortunately, I was too stupid when I had my opportunities back in my 20s, and I didn't seize the day, as it were. All right, I would love to get married and have kids. All right, and telling people who are graduating college that it's that having children, getting married and having children, is probably the most important thing you'll ever do in life, is the right message to give to people. All right. A lot of my difficulties when it comes to dating these days is because so many women are career oriented. It's like, I want to work my job. I want to make my money. I want to do this. And it's like dating a man. And I don't want to date a man. I want a woman who's going to say, oh, you're doing this podcast, YouTube thing? Let me see how I can help you do that. Let's marry our fortunes together. Let me work with you because I like you. I think you're funny. I think you're interesting, and you're kind of cute too. That's what I want. A partner who wants to get on board the Scott train. You know what I mean? The Madman mobile. That's what I want. I want a cheerleader. All right? And a cheerleader is not a career woman. All right? There's nothing wrong with wanting a career, and there's nothing wrong with wanting a family. And I think too many women these days do not want that. They don't want a family. They want a career and they want children. All right? And so that's why you get a bunch of single moms wondered why they're having a hard time finding good quality men. They're like, I'm not quitting my job for you. To work with you. To let us be lovers and marry our fortunes together. That's the whole point. It's the teamwork of it's two of you working as one. It's amazing. Why don't more people do it? And his message is right on what these people need to hear. And all these people who are mad at him are mad at him because they're a bunch of spinsters. They're a bunch of 40-something women who wasted their years when they should have been having kids, getting married, meeting a good guy, getting married and having kids. They wasted their years. They're mad at themselves for wasting their years. And so they're mad at him for calling it out. It's like, unfortunately, those women were lied to, and they believed the lies and said, oh, getting a career is more important than getting married to a good man and starting a family. I'm sorry that happened to you, but, you got to be smarter. You got to realize what's important in life. And Harrison Butker is talking about what's important in life. Boy, I'm really on a tirade. And that's one story. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, so parents say school principals humiliated their son, barred him from delivering patriotic election speech. The parents of a California middle school student are calling their son's principal to be fired after they say he was discriminated against over his beliefs. St. Bonaventure Catholic School student Jimmy Hayward, who is running for commissioner of school spirit and patriotism, and he wasn't allowed to talk. Okay. He was, quote, completely humiliated after Principal Mary Flock barred him from giving a speech at a school election rally, his parents say. Of course, it's a woman. Hayward's mother, Hattie Ruggles, claims her son was told to remove all parts about patriotism from his campaign speech or he'd not be allowed to deliver it before the school assembly. In the speech, the student talks about the importance of showing respect to veterans and paying attention to the national anthem when reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Quote, Jimmy stood up to her and said he wasn't going to take out the parts about patriotism. She then told him he would not be speaking. Jimmy sat on stage with all the other candidates while they said their speeches. Mary Flock directed the kids hosting the rally to skip Jimmy entirely. He was on stage for an hour in front of his peers, teachers, and parents being completely humiliated by Mary Flock. These schoolmarms are out of control. Pictures posted to the parents' social media account show the students wearing a red hat and a campaign sign in the same style of Donald Trump's. There it is. However, instead of Make America Great Again, it says Make SBS, St. Bonaventure School, Great Again. That's why. That's why. After Hayward was barred from delivering his speech, his father, Ed Hayward, confronted the school principal and vice principal at the assembly, accused them of not letting his son speak because his views didn't align with theirs, according to Ruggles. The principal then called Huntington Beach Police Department to remove the upset father, whom Ruggles had already moved away from the students and faculty. After officers showed up and talked with Hayward, they told him he was free to stay and watch with the rest of the families in attendance. The student's mother claims the principal later lied about the incident in an email sent home to parents that day. A screenshot of the alleged email, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Basically, it's a war on the pious, you know. It's the war on people who actually love this country, you know. And that's kind of what it is. It's like, oh, you love this country? You like the American flag? That's because you're an evil Nazi who loves Donald Trump? It's like, no, I love my country. There's nothing wrong with patriotism. You know, I don't know why it got into anybody's head since sometime between 9/11 and now, where patriotism is something that is bad. All right? Or even nationalism. Like, even nationalism, people think is bad. It's like, oh, well, it's like the nationalist, socialist. Right. But nationalism is not the evil part of that. All right? Nationalism is good. Thinking America is the best country in the world because it is, that's good. All right? I mean, it's got its flaws. Don't get me wrong. And we're working on it. But it's the best form of government. It's the worst form of government except for all the others. You know what I mean? So I'm just tired of these people. It's like, you can't say anything patriotic because patriotic means nationalist, and nationalist means Nazi, and Nazi means Donald Trump. And what's wrong with your heads? It's too many women. I'm just going to put that out there. It's too many women in these schools. You know, I don't know what it was back in the day or whatever like that. It's like, it seemed to me the administrators, the principals and vice principals were men. And many times a gaggle of female teachers gets all, he's saying patriotic stuff. That's when a principal who's a man puts his foot down. And it's like, knock off your nonsense. He's allowed to say all that. There's nothing wrong with patriotism. Go cackle in your corner. A friggin' bridge club. Chomp, chomp, chomp. In case having lunch, I guess. Okay, so, all right, let's talk about something interesting happening on Long Island. Parents in red leading suburbs outside New York City greenlighting armed security at public schools. This is Farmington, New York. Nearly 24 school districts in the red leading suburbs of New York City have approved armed guards to protect their children, preferring a show of force rather than further curtailing Second Amendment rights in the Empire State. One such district is the Farmington School District in eastern Nassau County, which serves more than 5,100 students. Although a coalition of parents, students, and district employees pushed for the measure, which the Board of Education approved in February, many local residents told Fox News Digital that they didn't know about the move this week. However, many supported the idea. The district's plan, announced by Superintendent Paul Defendini, that can't be a real name. You got it. And so I want to be like on the nose. I'm a lawyer. I defend people, but I want a little Italian. Paul Defendini, in a letter obtained by the local patch, will place armed guards outside the schools. The guards will only have permission to enter the building in order to respond to an active shooter. Otherwise, they'd have to remain outside. Smithtown, another large district in neighboring Suffolk County, implemented similar measures in 2023. About 17% of the estimated 420,000 students in the two counties are now protected by armed security, according to Newsday, with a cost of about $1 million per year per district. Other boards of education continue to weigh the idea. Quote, I have grandkids. I don't want them hurt. Deborah, an area woman, told Fox News Digital. So with violence the way it is now, a couple of dollars, it's not going to kill us. It's going to save a life. Absolutely. It's going to save lots of lives. Bob Clemente, another resident, said it was about time. I do think it's money well spent, especially when you have so many children dying. And what do you think about that? Not allowed to enter unless they're responding to a school shooter? That's fair. That's fair. If it doesn't make teachers nervous and stuff like that. Matt Walsh made a compelling argument against open carry, and I think he's right. I think he's right about that. I would prefer people who carry to, like, conceal. You know, this isn't the Wild West. When people open carry, it makes people nervous, and even if you get into a confrontation, people are going to see that you have that gun, and, like, their behavior may be altered because of that. Anyway. So I think it's good. Armed people protecting kids in schools. You know, the reason why these shooters go to schools is because they know they're soft targets. They know that you crazy liberals have been trying to get guns away from schools for a long, long time. And that's just the very nature of violence. It's like, you know, you push where there's mush. You know, where the weak point is where the attack comes. It's been like that. Violence has been like that for a long, 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 long time. Since violence began. Since Cain and Abel. You can argue that violence happened before Cain and Abel. Like, you think, maybe, like in the Garden of Eden, or outside the Garden of Eden, there were like 2 tigers fighting or something like that? Or do you think there was only 2 tigers too? Anyway. Weird tangent. Yeah, I think this is interesting that New York, in the state of New York of all places, you know, this is where this is happening. I think that people in New York are getting sick of the crime. And it may get to a point where, like, New York is like, you could start carrying, they start granting concealed carry for people with proper background checks. You get good people carrying guns walking the streets of New York could get a lot safer. You know what I mean? And that's what people don't understand. It's like, if you can't take away guns from the earth. You can't uninvent firearms. All right? And so, therefore, you need guns to stop, you need good people with guns to stop bad people with guns. It seems like so basic, and the reason why we keep saying it over and over in this basic way is that we still don't think we're not getting through to you morons. More guns is good. Unless you're like on a ship, and the ship gets overloaded, you got too many cannon, then like more guns is bad. Because you don't want to sink the ship. Or worse, like, you know, capsize it. You know, you got too many heavy guns on the deck, you know, you take a roll and whoops. That's too many guns. So I guess there is argument for that. I'm weird. Alright. Judges and lawyers, you know. So Washington State judge lowers bail for illegal immigrant accused of killing trooper from $1 million to $100,000. An illegal immigrant accused of killing a Washington State trooper in a crash earlier this year has dropped his bail from $1 million to $100,000 by a state judge last week. Raul Benitez Santana, 32, is currently being held at Snohomish County Jail on charges of vehicular assault and vehicular homicide involving alcohol or drugs in connection with the death of 27-year-old Washington State Patrol Trooper Christopher M. Gadd. This past March. He was originally held for $1 million bail, but online jail records on Wednesday show his bail was reduced to $100,000. Snohomish County Superior Court Judge Richard Akrent lowered Santana's bail on May 15th after Santana's defense attorney argued for his release, the Everett Herald reported. Gadd's widow, however, subjected Santana's release to the letter in a letter to the judge. Quote, reducing bail would not only undermine the severity of the crime, but also inflict further anguish and distress upon me, our child, and the rest of our family, Cameron Gadd wrote in the letter obtained by the Herald. Washington State, they make your state troopers wear those goofy little bow ties? Oh, and that's the picture everyone sees of you, dude? Oh, man, that sucks. Anyway, Gadd was killed just before 3 a.m. on southbound I-5 near Marysville when an SUV veered off the roadway and onto the shoulder, striking his parked patrol vehicle. The SUV was allegedly traveling at high rate of speed when the crash occurred. Fox 13 in Seattle previously reported that it obtained court documents alleging Santana had bloodshot eyes and admitted to the police that he had been drinking alcohol and smoking marijuana before getting behind the wheel of the vehicle and driving. You shouldn't do that. And when you combine drugs like that, that's like a confluence of stupidity happening. It's like alcohol makes you dumb. Weed makes you dumb. And then when you take both together, it's like... An ICE official confirmed Santana is a citizen of Mexico, who was in the U.S. unlawfully, and after entering the country at an unknown date and time. ICE placed an immigration detainer on Santana following his arrest. Santana's defense is now worried that should he post bail, federal authorities may arrest him and deport him from the country. Well, yes. Yes. Yes, deport him from the country. Him and everyone like him. That's right. I mean, judges are lawyers. You know that, right? And this is what bugs me. This has been bugging me since even my trial, is that I know that the judge is a lawyer. He started out as a lawyer. And everyone's like, oh, lawyers are slimy. They're scuzzballs, They're shady. They're all Saul Goodmans. You know what I'm saying? They're terrible people. And then eventually, that terrible, awful lawyer, after he does enough cases and knows enough people, some elected official appoints him to makes him a judge. Him or her a judge. That's all judges are. And then we're supposed to think that there's like this moral, that as soon as they become, they stop being a lawyer and start becoming a judge, that all of a sudden they're morally neutral. No. And that's what you have going on here. You have everyone's always throwing the George Soros pack people. It's there's lots of people who work for George Soros who don't get a dime from him. All right? They're just so brainwashed by this nonsense. It's like, oh, those poor illegal immigrants, kill state troopers. You're being way too hard on him. He's not even supposed to be here and he killed a cop. Unreal. Like I said, when Law and Order comes back, I mean, skulls are going to be cracked. That's all there is to it. It's going to have to happen. Anyway, let's get into two lighter stories. Get a couple laughs before we get out of here. So, Las Vegas restaurant hosts upsetting Bluey-themed event. Kids were crying.
How is this lighter?
How is what?
How is this lighter?
I don't know. I can watch your kids fall off bicycles all day. I don't know. A hot dog joint in Las Vegas. I think it's funny because how do you not know that Bluey is near and dear and close to the hearts of kids? And you do that, and this is what you do. Anyway, so a hot dog joint in Las Vegas unwittingly hosted an upsetting, quote-unquote, upsetting Bluey-themed event last week, leaving several kids in tears. Dirt Dog held the event called Bluey Day in one of its Sin City locations on May 11th. Fair enough, it is a restaurant in Las Vegas. The event was dedicated to the Australian children's show Bluey, in which which is about a blue Australian cattle dog. Oh, you learn something new every day. It's not like I watch it. I pretended like I don't watch it. Anyway. According to the Facebook event, the gathering advertised face painting, special treats, and meeting Bluey and friends. Celebrate Bluey with us, a marathon of all Bluey episodes, the event promised. More than 3,000 people responded to the event on Facebook. But when the people arrived at the event, they were disappointed by Dirt Dog's offerings, including a Bluey impersonator in a cheap costume whose face and beard were visible. Mother Stephanie Hernandez told Fox 5 Vegas that children were, quote, distraught by the occasion. Quote, some kids were crying, some kids were upset, crying in their parents' shoulders. How could you do that to little kids? Advertise something so fun and eventful for kids ranging from toddlers to 6, 7 years old, and not actually follow through with it. It was a very upsetting moment to see so many kids, especially my daughter, really upset. Dirt Dog told Fox 5 that the restaurant expected less than 60 attendees to show up and were overwhelmed by the response. Organizers were unaware of the children's show's popularity. What? How do you not know this? Do you not have kids? I don't have kids and I know how popular this show is. Quote, just now knowing who Bluey is, we would have planned ahead and would have had other security. The spokesperson explained. We're very much family. We love on each other. We support each other, and we love on each other. That makes it sound like creepy, This is my daughter. I love on her. All over her. We love on each other. We support each other. We're going to continue to make events, create events, especially free ones for families to come out and have a good time with us, the spokesperson for the restaurant said. Residents wrote about how disappointed they were on Facebook. One person wrote, I drove 1 hour to see a grown man in PJs. It was a horrible It was horrible and it was a waste of time. My daughter is super disappointed, another mother wrote. Dirt Dog told Fox News Digital that they deeply regret the May 11th event and are planning a follow-up event that will feature a real mascot and more activities. We deeply regret the recent Bluey event and that it did not meet expectations that we set, and we let down those who were excited to see a real mascot of the character Bluey, the business said. You know, it's, I don't know how you don't know how big this is. You know, and plus if people were responding of like 30, what is it, like 3,000 or 3,000 people on Facebook who said they're interested or going to the event, that should give you a clue that you're probably going to have more than 60 people, and you should have something other than a guy in pajamas. You know, I know, you know, the plan's probably made ahead of time. You don't really know. I know some, you know, we're just a hot dog place in Vegas. You know, in Vegas, we didn't expect 3,000 kids to show up. So maybe a couple of drunk people or guys who are, you know, looking for a cheap meal because they blew everything they had at the casino. Anyway, but I think it's funny because there's this kind of mistake is something that, you know, you haunt yourself. It's like seeing kids crying. Like, imagine you're the guy who was hired to be the Bluey character. You know, it's not your call to do this. It's not your call, like, what the costume and everything was, you know. But you're there. You're the guy who's supposed to be Bluey. You disappointed, crying kids everywhere. That's something that you'll have trouble sleeping that night. At least I would. Pretending I'm not a sociopath. It's fun to do that. All right. Last story. Let's talk about Florida Man. Florida Man, he's been busy. He had a long commute, apparently. So Florida Man drunkenly steals a school bus, drives 4 hours to Miami. Florida Man allegedly stole a school bus while drunk and drove to Miami in a wild Saturday night police outing, police said. Saturday night outing, police said. Land O'Lakes resident Daniel Saez, 32, was charged with grand theft auto on Sunday, according to Fox 13 Tampa Bay. So I guess from Tampa to Miami. Yeah, it's a ways. Florida Highway Patrol told the outlet the suspect stole the bus, which belonged to Hillsborough County Public Schools near Tampa on Saturday night. Saez then drove the vehicle to Miami, which is roughly 280 miles from Tampa, about a 4-hour drive. You could do it in 3 if you go 100. Anyway, which you shouldn't do. You shouldn't do that at all. I can make it in 3. Anyway, the suspect was stopped in Sarasota. The FHP said the authorities that he told authorities that he was on his way back to Tampa from Miami to return the stolen bus. It's great. Sarasota is approximately 60 miles south of Tampa. The suspect alleged admitting to stealing the bus, reportedly both drunk and high when the crime took place. That's how you end up stealing a bus. And the booze makes you dumb, the weed makes you dumb, and when you combine them, confluence of stupidity. He admitted stealing the bus. After being arrested, he was placed in county jail. Fox News reached out to FHP for additional information, but did not immediately hear back. Now, here's the thing. If you ever, like, I'm not saying I ever did this, but say you're, like, drunk, and you're like, I got an hour drive to get back home. Say you got drunk in D.C. and you live in Fredericksburg or something like that. And you've been pounding beers in, like, downtown D.C. for a while, and like, I'm going to go home. So you get in your car and you start driving, and halfway into the drive, you're fading, you know, because the alcohol is, like, crashing and stuff like that. And that's why, you know, doing that is incredibly dangerous, and you should never, ever do that. And so my point is that if you were drunk and stoned and you got in the bus and you planned to drive 4 hours, you would have to have some sort of understanding that you're probably not going to make it. 4 hours driving while you're drunk and high is a recipe for a nap time. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Maybe he's not used to drinking and driving. Because, you know, if you practice, you can get good at it. Don't do that. I'm kidding. Don't do that. Don't drink and drive. Don't steal school buses. Not even in Florida. Not even in New York. Not even in Long Island. You might get shot by somebody at a school. This has been fun today. This is why I gotta do it. I owed you guys for last week. That's my bad. But hey, we're back in business. I don't think I could ever stop doing this. I was thinking about that the other day, and it's like, I wonder if I was thinking maybe we could do a different channel. I could stop doing this, do another channel. I'm not going to get into what the idea is, but, and I was like, no, I'm gonna need to rant. Sometimes I'll watch something from Gavin McInnes, and he's talking about the Sex Pistols like they're so good. And if I don't do it on the show, it's going to come out in real life. I'll be at the McDonald's. I'll be like in line at McDonald's, waiting at the kiosk for and just friggin' Gavin McInnes and the Sex Pistols, and I'm just ranting at some people at McDonald's, and it was like, and as soon as I walk out of the room ranting with my cheeseburgers and stuff like that, walking out, everyone turns to each other and is like, "Did you mention Sex Pistols to him?" I was like, "Who brought up the Sex Pistols?" He did. I was like, "Oh, that guy's in here every week. Last week he was ranting about horses." Anyway, this is going to be the end of the show. This has been Shock Monkey Radio. Thanks for watching. I have Patreon. Patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron today. I would very much appreciate it. You can also send me money on Cash App. Use the hashtag shockmonkeyradio, all one word. You can also follow me on social media over here at Denalitsaw. That's the word wasteland, spelled backwards, on Twitter. Shock Monkey Radio Redux on Facebook, and at SLRobbins13 on Instagram. I also have books available for digital download on Amazon.com. You can follow the links down in the description below. Yeah, this has been Shock Monkey Radio. I'm the Madman, and I love you.